Alright guys, it's getting closer and closer to us. You know what I'm talking about. 2 months, guys! These 2 months are gonna go by a lot faster than we think. That's usually how it is at the 2-month mark when we're hyping up for a movie. Captain America the Winter Soldier. So Captain America the Winter Soldier is the 9th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the 3rd movie in its Phase 2 after the Avengers. So following the events of the Avengers, Steve Rogers is still adjusting to life in the modern age, and I love how this movie portrays that. Of all the Phase 2 films so far, this is the only one that has a completely different vibe from its predecessor. You know, in Iron Man 3, Tony Stark goes back to his house in Malibu, Thor goes back to Asgard in the Dark World, but Steve Rogers can't go back to the 1940s. He's stuck now in this completely different world that he is not used to at all. So he's doing what he knows, or at least what he thinks he knows. He's working for S.H.I.E.L.D. They're sending him on missions and whatnot as if he were a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. S.H.I.E.L.D. is actually a huge part of this movie, not just because Cap is working there, but because there's a lot of conflict between him and the people there, and that's one of the best parts about this movie. The biggest example is the relationship between him and Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, because they're polar opposites. Black Widow is pretty much the female lead in this movie, but the relationship that these characters have is not a romance, no sir. Instead, they banter back and forth, they argue over how things should be done. Black Widow is a very mysterious character. We don't really know that much about her. On the other hand, we all know that Captain America is a complete Boy Scout. He just wants to do what's right, no matter the cost. So these two ideologies inevitably have some clashes, and it's just done very well. And it's funny, because I've been told that Cap and Black Widow actually do have a romantic relationship in some of the story arcs in the comics. And then, of course, in this movie, we have the villainous Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier is this really mysterious assassin, and he is here to fuck shit up for S.H.I.E.L.D. I love the Winter Soldier in this movie. The action scenes with him and Cap are like some of the coolest shit I've ever seen. Well, really, all the action scenes in this movie are awesome. As I've said in the past, usually whenever an action scene is going down in a movie or a TV show or whatever, I can just kick back and turn my brain off for the time being because the story has come to a halt. But when I first saw this movie, every single action scene had me on the edge of my seat. Part of it is thanks to the score. I'll touch on that later, but the biggest part of it is definitely the sound effects. My favorite action scenes in this movie are when Captain America and the Winter Soldier are just fist fighting one-on-one, because you can really feel these hits. Like, they are just trying to beat the shit out of each other, and you feel it. It's awesome. There is also not one bad character in this movie. Robert Redford was awesome. Anthony Mackie was awesome. I remember watching him on Jimmy Fallon during the week this movie came out. The guy's actually really funny. And Emily Van Camp is in this movie. I will say this right now. The first time I ever saw her was when I was watching the Hollywood premiere of this movie online, and it was love at first sight. She has to be one of the cutest actresses I have ever seen in my life. And she was cool in the movie too. Just all the characters, they knew their places, and all the actors, they rocked their roles. The thing about this movie though is that it came out in early April, right? Or late March for those of you not in North America. That is like the weirdest time for a movie like this to come out. It's totally a summer movie. But if you were watching the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. like I was when this movie came out, then it makes perfect sense. In fact, I think that's probably the biggest reason this movie came out when it did. Because the events of this movie had major effects on what happened in the TV show starting the following Tuesday, and it was awesome. Props to Marvel on the timing for that shit. Of all the Phase 2 films so far, this one does the best job at pushing the Marvel Cinematic Universe forward for sure, because it shows in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And the score in this movie is absolutely fantastic. Henry Jackman composed the score for this movie, and at that point, the only other movie I knew he scored was Wreck-It Ralph. He's really good at adding that electronic element to his music. During the action scenes in this movie, there would be these really cool electronic sounds that totally reminded me of the Portal 2 soundtrack, and that is never a bad thing. So Captain America the Winter Soldier is an awesome movie. It was a lot better received than Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World. I'd actually had to say that this movie is tied with Thor the Dark World for me. I love the shit out of Thor the Dark World, and I love the shit out of this movie. So here is my question. The directors of this movie, Anthony and Joe Russo, were hired to come back and direct Captain America Civil War, but there's a rumor going around that they may also direct Avengers Infinity War, replacing Joss Whedon. So what do you think about that? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.